So there's an election in America in a fortnight. Not a fortnight, 12 days now. Good Lord. Trump or Biden? Who are you going to vote for? Well, here's a fact. If you're a Trump supporter, you're not going to tell anyone because you're in the silent majority. CNN calls to take a poll, you hang up. That's what you do. CNN hates Trump and all the fake media. So any phone calls coming from non-Fox stations, who's going to cooperate with those polls? No one. So once again, the polls are way out. If Biden is only ahead 4 or 5 points, 2 weeks to go, when Hillary was further ahead of Trump 2 weeks out in 2016, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, you've seen the actual physical human beings turning out in 20 and 30 thousands and lining streets, queuing up to see President Trump, who's doing 2 rallies a day, and he's been averaging a rally a day for, I think, the last 3 weeks, something just remarkable. The work ethic is astonishing. And these people have been coming out of the woodwork with masks on, except if it's outside, it's fairly safe to not have masks. But if it's inside, yes, you must wear masks. I agree with that. But the other thing is, how many people have actually come down with the COVID from Trump rallies? Now, if I was drumming up trouble for the Democrats, I'd be zeroing in on that sort of data and proving conclusively that Trump rallies are spreading the virus, but they're not. It's only that one in the Rose Garden where people came down in reasonable sort of numbers, about 10 or 12 got the virus. And you know what? They've all recovered, as far as I've heard, which is tremendous news, including the president's son, Barron. Now, why am I talking to you? I'm in Australia. What's my interest in the American election? Well, I've been covering elections internationally as an investigative journalist for 40 years now. Yeah, on and off, 40 years. And I've covered so many budgets and state elections and national elections, and I've had a grandfather that was born in San Francisco, and his mother was an actress in New York at the Empire Theatre on Broadway for many years, and she and Nelson Wheatcroft, they ran a stage acting school in New York, and she passed in 1935, and she's in the West Los Angeles, sorry, I beg your pardon, the West Hollywood cemetery, and I'm going to go and visit her grave when I get a chance in a couple of years to get over there. So my interest is, I've got family interests to follow what's happening in the United States. And of course, the guy is the leader of the free world. Whomever is in the Oval Office is the leader of the free world, and that has a direct bearing on Australia. And Australia is an ally of America, as we are also an ally of Great Britain, and also Japan, and also Singapore, and a whole swag of other nations too. And I'm a great believer in having an active interest in the politics and the trade of each of those nations that we're in partnerships with. Because I believe greatly in doing what we can to help other countries in their times of need, like when Indonesia had that tsunami in 2004, our Prime Minister, John Howard, gave $1 billion immediately in aid without question. And I was just floored by that generosity. $1 billion was huge back in those days. But you know what? In hindsight, the Indonesians have never forgotten that loyalty that Australia showed our neighbour. And that's been a tremendous thing that we've done to show compassion internationally, and hopefully the rest of the world will follow Australia's suit, because even when our Canberra, in our oppositions in Parliament, our oppositions have decency. They treat the governments in a civil manner. They play their politics robust, but they play the ball. They play the policy. It's very seldom that Australians get in the gutter and they go after each other's jugular veins and have personal attacks on people, like what is happening on not just a daily basis in America, but on every minute. The Democrats are looking for some horrible thing to say about Donald Trump. Absolute terrible stuff. I mean, Trump gives as good as he gets, but whatever he says about the Democrats, I believe it's warranted, because the guy's been under attack from the first minute he came down the escalator in the Trump Tower. Now, I want to just finish up because I don't want to waffle on, but this election is critical, and it is for democracy, it is for freedom, it is for liberty, it is for equality, it is for Christianity, it is for little babies. Now, I'm not against abortion totally. I believe if a poor young girl has been raped and she's fallen pregnant and she's got no one to help her, I do believe if that baby cannot be born and adopted out, if those avenues are exhausted, then I believe a termination is warranted, but only as a last resort. And obviously we want those young teenage girls to be given the best possible treatment and not have to go to backyard operators. We don't want that. They're somebody's daughter. And we want their health, obviously. But for the Democrats to be openly promoting the termination of full-term babies, that to me cuts to my core. I cannot believe it for the life of me. And they're advocating not just millions, but billions in funding for Planned Parenthood to deal in planned butcherhood. And they're actually making money out of harvesting body parts of terminated babies. And some of the testimony from people who've been very high up in Planned Parenthood in the past and have left because they couldn't believe the goings on. I'm absolutely speechless, just the thought of what happens to those little babies and those fetuses. And there was a comment whereby some bastard was making a joke about sucking out a fetus, and that was the termination. And this woman described the language he used. I won't repeat the language, but it was vulgar. And we don't need people like that on the planet. But anyway, my mother tried terminating me. She wanted to, but at the last minute she was going into the clinic and some crying teenager was rushing out. She didn't go through. She either did go through with it or she changed her mind. Anyway, just that instant, my mum changed her mind and decided to have me. And so if she went through with the abortion, I wouldn't be here today. So that's why I'm very big on right to life and pro-life and very much family-oriented. Now, I don't mind homosexuals. I've got a lot of homosexual friends and I respect them immensely. I don't agree with their lifestyle, but that's their business. And just as they probably don't respect my heterosexual lifestyle, probably some of them, that's okay too. everybody's different, but I do believe we've got to have mutual respect in this world. And we've given the homosexual community acceptance, I believe. We've come a long way in the last 50 years to give equality. And I think a little gratitude in return would be welcome, because the traditional family value community, we've been copping it for a long time, and we've had to remain silent, and we've been walked over, and we've been punished for things that we didn't do. We've all been lumped in the same. We're tarred with the same brush in terms of the victimisation that's been going on the other side. But anyway, in Australia, we had a vote, a national vote, and it went their way, and they've got same-sex marriage, and good luck to them. Interestingly, and I'm not saying this for any reason, but in the last 2 years since that's happened, there have not been very many same-sex marriages. And if you compare it to the population of Australia, which is 25 million, there's only less than, I think, 0.5% of gay marriages that have been conducted. So it's not very representative of the population, and it's not really proportional. And yet they've got so much say in the community. And anyway, I'm just telling you this because I'm a conservative, because I don't believe the Conservatives are being given a fair go in Australia. They're not being given a fair go in America, and they're not being given a fair go in the United Kingdom either. And when you have a family, when you get to the age of about 30, 32, 33, and you've started building a house, or you bought a house, or you're paying it off, you lose your socialist leanings of the 20s, and when you're a teenager you want to change the world, and you think everyone's an old fuddy-duddy if they're over 32, 33. Then you get to 32, 33 yourself. Then you start to look around. You want to protect what you've gained and what you've worked hard for. You don't want people to erode it away from you. So as Winston Churchill once said, if you haven't left your socialist roots by the age of 35, there's something wrong with you. Most people should become a conservative by the age of 35. Anyway, I'm 60, and I want to wish you all every good wish in the next couple of weeks as you get out to vote in America. I would encourage you to vote in person. I would encourage you, if you're going to do the ballot voting, that you do it correctly. You do it by the letter of the law, and you do it with a signature, your own signature. And please do not give your own ballot out to somebody else to vote on your behalf, because that is not what democracy is all about. This is Lord Reags of Oz. I'm the 7th great-grandson of King Charles II. I'm the 9th cousin of Queen Elizabeth II, 6th cousin of Prince William and Prince Harry and Lady Diana. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And may Christianity win on November 3rd. May democracy win on November 3rd. And may equality and the American dream survive and flourish from 221 onwards. Thank you for listening and watching.